So this is the 1.6 notes called Order of Operations with Exponents for Pre-Algebra. We walk through, a lot of this is going to look familiar because we did do Order of Operations a lot last week for your quiz also with the 1.1 to 1.4 quiz. And so, but this will now include exponents since we talked about exponents on Friday. So we're starting off with a quick kind of review part of what like PEMDAS is, or please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, I'm sure you've heard that, but please make sure you always group together multiplication or division and addition or subtraction. So you have different types of parentheses, right? So we have those brackets that represent parentheses, same with the actual parentheses symbol. We have a division bar that we talked about last week as well. So it's like the fraction bar that you see when you see like a fraction. And so when you work with these three different types, those are called grouping symbols, and you work with those first. Always look out for, are there these three kinds first, and then move on to the next step, which is then exponents. So last week when we did it, we didn't really have much with exponents because we were going to learn about exponents first on Friday, a little more about them and how to calculate them, and then go on to move on to putting them into our order of operations. So here are some examples that we saw even from Friday. Some positive exponents, some negative ones. So we have 2 cubed, 3 to the 4th, and negative 2 in parentheses being cubed as well. And remember, when we do multiplication or division or addition or subtraction, you always have to do what is first from left to right, reading from left to right. Okay, so make sure you don't just always do multiplication first just because you feel like it. You want to make sure you're following the rules of what comes first from left to right. Same thing for addition and subtraction. Do what is first, reading from left to right. All right, that's a little bit about how the order that you're going to follow. Remember, this is order of operations, so we have to follow these steps. So let's start with the first one. We have a fraction, a grouping symbol. So that fraction bar is called a grouping symbol. So you are going to just deal with the top separately, that's called the numerator, the bottom separately, that's called the denominator, and then we'll just divide the two numbers. So on the top here, on the numerator, you have 6 times 7, because 2 plus 5 is 7. Always do the parentheses first. Then on the denominator, I'll just keep it 3 times 7. And now we can do the multiplication on top and bottom separately. So 6 times 7 is 42. And 3 times 7 is 21. And when we divide those two numbers, you should get 2. Okay, then we have, so that's all we did, kind of just combined, worked with parentheses. We haven't seen exponents just yet, and then we did multiplication. Let's see what happens when I see an exponent here. But I can't jump to that yet. I have to do the parentheses first. So I'm going to write down 6 squared, just bring it straight down, then bring the division bar down. And then we have 3 plus 9 is 12. Then there's a plus sign. So again, please bring everything down just like I am. And then we have 5 plus 3 is 8. So then from here, we are dividing, or I'm sorry, before we get to division, we can do exponents now. So we took care of both parentheses. Now for the E, or exponents. 6 squared. So if you're not sure what 6 squared is, you can use a calculator. And you would type in 6, and then that caret key, and a squared. Oops. Or you can press that little x squared button also for squared. So this would be 36 divided by 12 plus 2 times 8 is 16. All right, so we have 36 divided by 12 plus 16. Just make sure you're following the order there. And now we're ready for division. 36 divided by 12 is 3. Please use a calculator as needed as you try out these examples, especially when you get started on homework. Make sure you borrow a calculator and then put it back when you're done. So then we have plus 16. 3 plus 16 is 19. So that's what we have so far. Let's keep going. So on the next one, we have a cube, or like 3 is being cubed, but again, I can't do that just yet. I want to take care of the parentheses first, and then I'll come back and cube it. So let's rewrite 3 cubed, then put the division bar, or the division symbol, I should say. And then we have, let me zoom in just a little bit. Then we have 7 plus 2 in parentheses. That's what you want to put as 9. You want to do that addition now. And the rest stays the same. Plus 19 minus 5. Okay, now we have 3 cubed this is where you can use your calculator. So we have 3 cubed is 27, if you weren't sure of that, divided by 9, and then we have plus 19 minus 5. 27 divided by 9 is going to be 3, and then you bring down the plus 19 and the minus 5. Okay, add each of these together, so now we're ready to do addition and then subtraction. Remember, whatever comes first from left to right. So addition comes first, so we have 3 plus 19 is 22, and then minus 5. So 22 minus 5 is 17. And we are done with that one. If at any point this goes too fast for you and you want to look at any of this, remember it is posted on Canvas as well as this video. All right, number 4, we have a 2 plus 10 times 4 squared is 16, because now we have exponents right off the bat. There's no parentheses. If, again, you don't know what 4 squared is, use your calculator to just double check 4 squared is 16. Okay, and then there was a minus 20 still there. Now we are looking out for multiplication and division. So we see that 10 times 16 is 160. 2 plus 160 minus 20. And then we have just adding and subtracting from left to right. So 2 plus 160 would be 162 minus 20. And when you subtract those two, we get 142. And we're done. Okay, so we have 4 more examples of the same kind on the next page, once everyone is done here. And then the last 2 are going to be kind of like in context, kind of like a, not story problem, but just having to kind of think through it a different way, not just do the order of operations. So hopefully you're all set here. Again, if you need any part of this later on, you can check Canvas for the answer key for this or the actual video again. So number 5, it says 10 plus 43 minus 5. And so we have to do the parentheses first, but within the parentheses you have to add or subtract, or I mean you have to follow order of operations. And so we'll add first and then subtract. So this is 53 minus 5, because again we're adding and subtracting from left to right. Keep everything else the same, just bring it straight down. And then 53 minus 5 is 48. Now you have divided by 6 and adding it to 5 squared. So we did parentheses. Now onto the exponents. Remember, if you need to write out PEMDAS for yourself, just remember that M and D are together and A and S are together, just whatever comes first from left to right. So 25 is what I would calculate next, because 5 squared is an exponent. If you need your calculator for that, just use a calculator to type in 5 squared. And then keep the rest the same. Bring down the 48, divide it by 6, and then you have that plus 25. So 48 divided by 6 is 8 plus 25, and then add those together to get your final answer, which is 33. All right, we have a few more here. Number 6. Now here's where we have to be careful. We have some exponents, but this exponent is around the parentheses. It's not just around one single number. It's around the entire parentheses 6 plus 4. So you have to look at that carefully, because you have to decide, is that exponent only being raised to a number like how it was for number 5, or is it being raised to the entire thing? And so since it's around the entire thing, you have to do parentheses first. We have to figure out what is 6 plus 4. And we know that's 10. So we square the 10, and then keep going with the rest of the parentheses here. Be very careful here. A lot of people make this mistake. For the second parentheses, you cannot add first. You have to do division first. So you would do 11 plus 5, because 10 divided by 2 is 5. So we have 11 plus, and then whatever 10 divided by 2 is. And then from here we have 100 plus, you could now, actually, if you wanted to wait on that 100, we could have, because technically we want to finish up the parentheses first and get 16. I kind of skipped a step here, but it's up to you if you wanted to kind of rewrite that. And then finally, 100 plus 16 is 116. Okay, I'll leave that up if you're still working on that one. And then we have 2 more just like this. So on this next one, here's where it's different from number 6. Number 7 has the squared sitting with the 4, although it's in the parentheses, it's different from the last one because that was outside the parentheses. I know it's just a tiny little detail you have to look at carefully. So this one would be 14 minus, you would actually calculate 4 squared first, which is 16. You would leave that in the parentheses. So although parentheses come before exponents, in this case we did the exponents because they're inside the parentheses, and that's how I'm going to calculate the what's in the parentheses. So let's keep going. Times 2 plus 8 divided by 4. And then we want to finish the parentheses now. 14 minus 16 is negative 2 times 2 plus 8 divided by 4. Now do multiplication or division from left to right. So negative 2 times 2 is negative 4 plus 8 divided by 4. Again, can't add yet. We have to do the division first because it comes first from left to right. So that's going to be 2. Negative 4 plus 2 is what I have so far. And my last step is to add. So be careful with negative numbers. Negative 4 plus 2 would be negative 2. All right, on to number 8. So this is our last one. We have to, again, follow the order of operations that we have, and then we'll finish up with the last 2, which are a little bit different. So following order of operations, do parentheses first. 17 minus 11 would be 6. And that's what I'm getting for the parentheses only. Everything else is staying the same. 50 divided by 25 times 5 minus 8 plus 3 times 6. Okay, that's 6 that we just calculated for the parentheses. Now if I look through, I don't have any exponents, so I don't have anything to do there. Then we go to multiplication or division from left to right. So division comes first. I have to do that right off the bat. So 50 divided by 25 is 2. Keep the rest all the same. So I know it's a lot of repetitively writing the same thing, but that's how you make sure you don't make a mistake here. 25 times, then we have 2 times 5, which is 10. Then we have minus 8 plus 3 times 6. So we did more of the multiplication, and finally we have one last multiplication left, which is the 3 times 6 is 18. Keep all the rest the same. 10 minus 8 plus 18 would be 2 plus 18. And finally that is 20. Okay, so that's a little bit about the order of operations that we've been working through. A lot of the same stuff, but now, again, remember exponents. You have to remember to do them after parentheses if there are any, and then continue with multiplication, division, adding, and subtracting. Okay, so to do the last 2, it's going to help if you read the statement and then you try to write your own kind of expression out of it. So it says, Andre says, I multiplied 4 by 5, then cubed the result. Okay, so we're trying to write this without words. We're trying to write it as an actual expression. And then we'll try to match it to all the possible answers here, because you could have more than one correct answer. So it says, I multiplied 4 by 5. Let's go ahead and write 4 times 5. But then it says, I cubed the result. That means whatever we get for 4 times 5, he cubed it. So you raised it to the 3rd power. Okay, so we need to figure out where this is, if you see any of these answers. If you notice the first one, you cannot pick the first one. A lot of people want to because they say, oh, that's close enough. the biggest thing missing here is the parentheses. This is saying here that I just want to take the 5 and cube it. I don't want to take the 4 and also, multiply it by 5 first. So the order matters here. Parentheses come before exponents, whereas here I would just do 5 cubed first and then multiply by 4. I would get a different answer entirely. So B is the correct answer so far, just like I wrote here. C cannot be correct because it's got a 2 for the exponent. I don't have a 2. I need a 3 because it said cubed. Then for letter D, this is also incorrect because it just switched around letter A. And again, I need parentheses around 4 times 5. But here's what people might forget, that letter E is actually going to work here. And here's why. 4 times 5 is 20, and then you would cube it. So 20 cubed can be written without the parentheses there. That's letter E. So I can do, so far, B and E. Now for the last two answers, one of them is correct and one is wrong. So let's take our calculator and figure out which one is correct here. You can either type in 20 cubed, and you see it's 8,000. That's G. Or you could have done 4, or in parentheses, 4 times 5 cubed. But don't do it without parentheses, otherwise you're going to get the wrong answer. So it is 8,000 is the correct answer there. So the final answer is B, E, and G. All three of those will work. All right, so number 10 says, I took the number 8 and then multiplied it by the square of 3. Okay, so this one you have to read it carefully and then write it down. So I took the number 8 and then multiplied it by the square of 3. That means 3 squared got multiplied to the 8. Not in parentheses this time. We just have to write it separately like this, just like letter choice A. Now this time B is incorrect because there's no parentheses, but C is also right. Or I'm sorry, nope, it's not. I just realized it's got 2 cubed on it, and that's not right. Okay, so this is definitely wrong. It has to have the exact same exponent, 3 squared. But D is right because they switched the order. 8 goes after, 3 squared comes first. Cannot be E because 24 squared would mean that you multiplied first and then squared it like it was in parentheses. But let's check if it's F. Let's do 8 times 3 squared. And yes, that's 72. So that's why F is also going to work there. So our final answer is A, or all of our answers are A, D, and F for number 10 here. And now we've finished all of our notes. So for the rest of the class, go ahead and start on the 1.6 homework as soon as it's passed out to you. If you have any questions on anything, you can bring your questions tomorrow. I will go over any questions from these notes as well as the homework for 1.6. Make sure you take full advantage of the rest of the time and get that done. All right. I will see you guys on Tuesday.